gonna get to the regular armbar position, which is I bring my leg up into the armpit, my other leg comes over the head. This is just our starting position. So his arm's trapped inside, my legs are over. Makes sense so far? Now we're just practicing some hip movement. I open this leg and I'm gonna swing it in a circle. This leg's gonna push off using my calf. And I'm bringing my head all the way to the other side. It's about trying to find that working in combination to get our hips loose and swing all the way to the other side. Where most people have trouble is we don't push off. They do pretty good with this, but then and we get stuck. So we want to really push off with our calf, which allows. If you need to use your hands to help, that's fine. You want to try to practice it with that. The big thing we're focusing on is getting our head all the way to the other side, not getting here and then trying to use my flexibility to move myself there. Not really the idea. We want to get that hip. I feel the traditional armbar, the number one mistake I tend to see is as we go to cut the angle, we bring our hip out, like my shoulder comes off the floor, which there's times we want to use this for, open guard. But if I try to shoot for an armbar here, there's so much space, he's gonna pass my guard every time. So by really focusing on keeping your shoulders on the floor, notice there's not as much space between us and I can catch it. So we're turning, not hip escape. Use a little cross collar grip. We'll work the choke and then start sitting with the tats on. So here, just general guard theory. I'm always trying to break my opponent's posture down. One thing also to think about is like the Goldilocks zone. Brian's head right now is like straight up. It's gonna be hard to get attacks. I have to open my guard to start really attacking there. If Brian's head's like on my chest, here, this is better for me, harder for Brian to pass, but it's a lot of times hard to get the submission when they're real tight to you here. So sometimes when I have a guy down, I'm letting him work to get his posture back, but it's only so much. So if Brian's trying to go, right here is kind of that Goldilocks zone where I can start setting up attacks. But right now, we're gonna go with the cross collar. And even if Brian's postured up, that's all right. We're gonna start with the cross collar grip. I wanna start opening the gi. One thing I like to do too is kind of like punch it open a little behind the neck. We have a tendency to pull it real tight, and I can only get my hand in so far. So kind of open it. Now my hand can get behind the head where there's room. I notice a lot of times, like in a fight, I'll get the grip and it's a little bit shallow, so I start sitting up on my elbow, and now I'll punch my hand in. We talked about this Monday night, I believe. When I teach cross collar chokes from mount, I like to go a thumb in grip. Here, not me, real quick, actually. So from here, I like to go a thumb in grip, 4 fingers on the outside. It's more comfortable on my wrist. I can also put a lot of pressure with the elbow there. Yeah, it's very effective. The reason this is good here is Brian doesn't really need to break my posture. The floor holds me in place. And if Brian switches his grip, I feel this is like a stronger muscle group to pull me toward him, but from here he doesn't really need to do that. In closed guard, I feel sometimes when I have this grip, my elbow flares a lot, and it's pretty easy for them to use this hand to start pushing my elbow up, and it's hard to control. Here I can kind of keep my elbow down a little bit better, but also I feel I have a much better job pulling the guy to me like that versus pulling the guy to me like that. Do you feel the difference? So on top, it's okay to do the thumb in. On bottom, I prefer 4 fingers. So, and we get our grip, we start sitting up, we punch in deep. Here, always try to, if your thumb's not at least touching the back of the neck, reach a little deeper. You can't go too deep on a cross collar shoot. From here, we have a couple of, I start putting my elbow down a little bit. Most common scenarios, they go to push me down. So I can now throw my hand underneath and grab 4 fingers inside. On this side, I don't need to be as deep, but I need to be at least collarbone. I can't be way down here. But because this hand's already tight, it's hard to get all the way behind the head. So I just come in here. Now, I curl my wrist forward, sorry buddy, which you feel already puts the pressure. I use my knees to pull Brian in. My head goes towards my top hand, And elbows don't flare, elbows stay tight, and my wrists try to, like, think of touching your thumbs together through their neck. Now, I find this grip often hard to find in the range. It's great when you get there, but there's like a small space, sometimes it gets real congested. So I like doing the grip up here on this material. We have a couple ways we can do it. Say I break Brian's posture, I can just make the grip right here and hug their head. Here, Brian's natural reaction is to posture, so I fight him a little bit, now I move out of the way and circle over. From here, my head goes to the top hand, I pull him in with the knees, curl my wrists, and get my finish. A lot of times on these kind of chokes too, good guys are gonna like grit it out. But if you hear them, stick with it, don't give up on it, right? I can also, say his elevation's a little higher, I use the foot on the hip and that same motion we just did, which I find gives me a really good angle to find here. Here, sometimes they're gonna tuck their chin a little bit, right? So I just start coming square, and even if I'm on the jaw a little with this first hand, as long as my bottom hand's under, I can still finish, or I give them a shake. I push away and pull them back. And now I finish. In tournaments, I'll shake the crap out of a guy just to get it under there. Training, I'm a little bit gentler in how I shake it out. A lot of times people just trying from here, and it's kind of hard. That angle makes it way better. I square back up, but I also like this because now it's going to set up my next set of attacks when I go to armbar the guy. So say, like as I said, that's why I like sitting up on the elbow here. I can only get so high, right? So I start to sit up, I punch deeper. Brian, I start to come here. And a real common thing as I go here is they want to block this arm from finding, right? So if you bring that arm, that's okay. But usually they're gonna like try to grab my bicep here. Yeah, and I start to come here. And look how that starts to give me the angle. So I feel this, and they stiff arm me a little. I jump up and pinch. Don't go all the way over the head right away. It's hard. As I jump my hips, I like to keep this knee a little bent and this leg kind of straight. So I'm like coming here. Now, I still have this tap, right? But now I have the arm lock. So I can start to come here and make my grip, or I can push the face and come here. And look how I already have that. I like to keep this and just finish. I like this top lock though, because what does Brian have to do from here?
Pull his elbow out.
Right? Yeah, he tries to pull the elbow out. There's a whole lot of body there. Often we try to jump straight over, and I feel that's where it's.
So you shoot that high guard, that's what happens.
Exactly, yeah. Here. Right. This also gives me control. Say I make a little mistake as I'm coming up and Brian starts pulling the elbow out a little. Oh look, because I had that grip. We're right to the triangle and or omoplata. Sometimes, even if I know it's not a good grip, like say I'm just not able to get there, a lot of times I'll come here anyway. Yeah, he goes to block me. From here, I'm still fighting. If Brian starts like trying to push his shoulder back in, that often that'll give me back to the choke. They try to pull away, now I'm back to the shoulder. So we can go back and forth with that attack. If Brian like starts to block my arm here, if I do that like push away with my hips, now there's so much space. And I feel like what happens here, if there's too much space, they slip this arm underneath. Yeah, and you start getting stacked. Now here, I can finish the armbar sometimes right here, just grabbing, bringing my hips up, and getting my finish. Or now, a lot of times here, I'll start pushing the face, crossover. Here, I want my knees tightly pinched together. I can keep this grip in the collar, sorry, again. If they try to like pull away, it keeps me to him. If he tries to push into me, it kind of keeps distance a little bit so you don't get stacked as much. Some people feel like, but it'll give them room to pull out the arm. I actually feel that keeps the arm in tighter. When I pull the hand out, there's a little bit more room. When I'm here, I can control the wrist, start finishing right there. This leg is kind of bringing Gannon's head down. This leg's chopping, keeping pressure. Think of your hamstring not letting them stack you too. Like hamstring pushing their ribs. But don't push your feet up. A lot of people do this, and that takes pressure off the head, and then we start getting in trouble. If you need to, you can take your hand out to help finish. If they do start stacking you a little bit, what I like to do is start bridging over this shoulder. So I use like this leg to bridge over this shoulder, which now gives me room to finish that arm bar. And a lot of times they kind of fall over and you end up in like a belly down arm bar. But when they start putting stacking pressure, it's hard to fight right here. But there's nothing really stopping me from turning my hips out this direction, which I like. So I start cutting the angle, again it goes, I create my angle better. Trap the shoulder, I'm comfy. You can even say here, do you feel like it's not gonna work? Find your grip, square back up, and strangle. Or we step over, finish, finish. If he stacks a little over the shoulder, look how it creates that gap to finish. Sometimes it's harder to finish here because his hand meets your chest too quick. So that, like, there will be times even where I'll start creating that angle when I don't have to. It just gives me more angle to finish the arm bar. Sound good? Shall we try? 1, 2.